Welcome to Worship Leader Hangout. My name's Chad. Today I'm honored to have the band LARK with me here at my church. We're going to be doing a lot of videos coming up over the next couple months on the channel, and I just wanted to introduce these guys, and we're going to just sit down and talk about a few things that I think will be really beneficial to you as a worship leader and to your team. So sit back, relax. What's up, guys? You saw him on the channel a little bit ago. If you haven't checked out his bass videos or anything like that, go check it out. But this is Josh Howard. We grew up together in college.
Yeah.
So we
did do a lot of growing up in college. So,
absolutely.
You know, that's fair.
But we're not going to start with Josh. What's up?
Hey, Chad. What's going on, bro?
Man, it's good.
I'm Aaron Maston. Play piano, keyboards, and singing in the band. Play at a couple of churches in Knoxville, New Hopewell Baptist Church and Overcoming Believers Church. And
so what do you do at those churches other than play? Are you MD or anything like that?
No, I just play piano on both of them, keyboards. So that's basically what I'm doing there.
That's pretty cool.
I'm gonna hand it to this guy.
Hey, I'm Garrett Tillman. Ooh, it's the first time I've been given a mic. This is a big deal.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, next. No, I'm Garrett Tillman. I'm the drummer in the band. I grew up in Knoxville, and I played in a lot of churches there. Powell Church, Cokesbury, First Baptist Concord. But I live in LA now, and I play for Saddleback Church out there. But yeah, no MD, no worship leader status, so I'm boring.
So you play what?
Drums.
Awesome.
Yeah. Did I not say it?
No, you did.
I thought I said
You
it.
did? Okay.
Okay.
Great.
My name's Jake Forston. I play guitar in the band. I live in Atlanta currently, but I grew up in Knoxville as well. And I played for a ton of churches over the years, like coming up and stuff, but mostly, I mean, professionally, I play at West Hills with these guys, or some of these guys, in Knoxville. And yeah, sometimes in Atlanta, but mostly I just drive back to Knoxville to play. So, yeah.
That's pretty cool, man.
Cool.
So, talking about the band, you guys have released a new project by the time this comes out, and tell us a little bit about that and what you guys have to do to come together and to make that happen.
Yeah, you know, it was kind of one of those things that it happened really naturally. You know, I think that it started with me and Garrett and Jake when I was called to play to start a new campus for one of the churches that I play at in Knoxville. And they were like, well, who else are you thinking for the band? And I had played with Garrett for a long time at a church called Cokesbury and just playing gigs because we were both playing professionally. And I was like, oh, got to get Garrett. And then I happened to play this youth thing, this like week-long youth, conference thing. And Jake was just on guitar, and I was like, this dude is killer. So, I just threw Jake's name out there, and so that's kind of how the band started. It was just the three of us. There was just a real good connection musically and spiritually, just talking in conversation. We kind of our faith was in the same a really similar spot, and kind of just how we viewed life and everything. So that's how it started, and then we decided to start this band, but to try and do it exactly how we wanted. So we didn't rush anything at all. We were actually a band for like 2 years or something before we even recorded our first demos, and nobody knew. We didn't like make a Facebook page and we're like us, blah, 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 without any content. We didn't tell anybody, and because we've both been, we're all four of us play professionally. And so we've been in a billion bands, and we've done everything wrong. And so that was the goal, was to take it slow and just really develop a sound and, a view as a band, just how we viewed things that are going on around us and things like that. So that's really how it started. Just slow and natural.
Awesome. And that's probably a good way to start it anyway, just to not have so much hype, and then, okay, maybe we don't do anything for a couple years.
Right, yeah. That's worse.
Yeah. So that's awesome. So tell them a little bit about yourself and what you do for the band. And
Yeah, I'm Josh Howard. I'm the bass player for the band, and you know, we share responsibility pretty well in this band. Yeah, I think, but I think that's because I don't know why that is, but yeah, I think sometimes I'm like band dad, music dad. You know what that's like. Any worship leader knows what it's like to be the dad.
Right.
All of you guys know. You're all dads.
That's right. Or moms.
Or moms, yeah.
Sorry.
Nice. But yeah, so I think I do that in this band. But besides that, I play at Overcoming Believers Church with Aaron, and I play at First Baptist Concord West Hills campus in Knoxville. I'm the MD at OBC, Overcoming Believers, and I'm like kind of the MD at First Baptist. I have the talkback mic. That's all that means.
Okay.
Yeah.
Everybody has a talkback mic here, so I guess.
Oof. You guys are
I
doing
mean,
it. You guys are doing it.
Video coming soon.
Yeah. Yeah, right.
So let's get right into some conversation about being church musicians and working with worship leaders, because I know every one of you work, even as an MD, you still work with a worship leader of some sort. And I want to talk about some things that maybe they don't get to hear often with their team, or maybe they just don't want to hear from their team. Maybe there's some rough issues that we need to talk about today just for the next 15 minutes or so. But let's open the floor with
Yeah, well, Chad, I think one thing that I've noticed, or that's pretty common in all churches, is that there's professional musicians on stage. And like Josh said, we all do this every day for a living, and this is what we do. So I think what would be helpful sometimes is if people understand that you should be able to take advantage of your musicians, of your professionals, yeah, because we do this like we do this, So I don't know. There's probably some specific examples that people could give.
So elaborate on that a little bit. I mean, are you saying?
I'm saying if I had a doctor at my church and I was trying to perform open heart surgery, I would ask him a couple of questions.
At least two.
Ask him some questions. The same thing for us,
So you're saying
not only in just how do I play this chord, but how do I feel the energy of a room? That's kind of our jobs too. We have to adapt to every room. We can hear things in rooms that people aren't really trained to hear, or we understand how people understand music and feel music. They might not know this is an A-flat chord or whatever, but they do know how something makes them feel. So if you ask, have conversations with your musicians sometimes on a philosophical level, like how do we engage people? Somebody, yeah.
Yeah, and we're never really going to come out and say something like, hey, that's not our place. We're used to just
and I think that's an honor thing. It's like, well,
right.
I'm honoring him as a worship leader.
Yeah,
if he
there's a
wants
respect thing. I mean,
yeah.
he's your boss. You got hired to play for this guy. So he's calling the shots on this. But yeah, I mean, it's like not our place to say anything unless we're asked. But we do have a lot of opinions and, hopefully something good to say about it.
Yeah, something to
situation.
add.
Yeah.
That's good. That's really good.
I think, as a worship leader, depending on what kind of church you're at, you deal with different skill levels of musicians. And I think you need to realize who the professionals are, and you need to take advantage, like Aaron was saying, of the fact that you can view them as peers instead of having to tell them what to do all the time. It's fine if a worship leader says, I want for me, if they're like, can you just play whole notes, or I want something busier here. I'm totally fine with all that. But I think there's, at First Baptist, I have a pretty good relationship with the guy who leads music, or who leads worship, and I appreciate when there's a situation when he doesn't totally know what to do, he'll ask my opinion instead of just making a split decision. I'm not saying your professionals always know what's right, but I think like Aaron said, you should take advantage of that. You should feel free to take advantage of that instead of trying to maintain some weird leadership status, because as professionals, like Garrett said, that's our default. Our default is you're the leader as the worship leader, and we're gonna respect what you say, because that's our job. Yeah. You know what I mean? And that's our default. You don't ever have to work for that. And I think every worship leader who's watching this knows on their stage who they consider a professional and who they consider a volunteer or somebody that they're investing time into. Those are different relationships. Right. But yeah.
And we understand. I think one thing people might not understand is that as professional musicians, we're usually in the leadership role and the support role. Like, I have gigs that I have to call Josh or Garrett or Jake on, and then there's gigs where people call me. So we understand how to be in both of those roles. Like, for instance, I play at Overcoming Believers Church with Josh, and he's the music director there. And yeah, I have a ton of opinions, and I've been a music director at a ton of places, but I give that over to him, you know. You know, it's like, this is your thing, man. You run it, you know what I mean? So those roles, we can be both, you know.
No, that's good.
Are there any specific things that worship leaders are doing right now, or things that worship leaders are using, or maybe tech or anything like that, that you feel like could be a distraction or a hindrance from, or just an annoyance coming in? Maybe maybe you're filling in somewhere and you've noticed, okay, well, this piece of tech or this way of doing things is just annoying.
Things with a billion knobs.
Okay.
Like, you know, every church has like different, like in-ear, like mixing systems.
Okay.
And the things that drive me the most crazy are, I'm just gonna say it, like the iPad ones where you can like change heaven and earth in your mix, like in your ears. That drives me nuts because I think what people don't realize is that all of those sound different. And so, in my opinion, it's more important to get something with less knobs that sounds good in my ears than to get something with more knobs that doesn't sound good just plugging in. Do you know what I'm saying?
Right, right.
How many times have we been in a situation where we have time to actually adjust our mix, you know? It's like you get there, you set up, and then they're like, all right, let's hit it. And then you haven't even heard a single note yet, and then you're supposed to like dial stuff in as you rehearse, you know, and then rehearsal goes bad. And then it goes over, and then congregation's walking in, you know, and you're still fixing stuff, and then by the time the second service is done, you think you're kind of close.
We basically did that today to you.
Yeah. And then it's over, and then it's the next week. You
That's
know?
right.
You could save a ton of money if you just ask your musicians, hey, we're going to get some in-ear stuff. What should we get? Instead of like...
What should we get?
Not Avioms. Not Avioms.
The old ones. Those like blue Avion mixes. Those are really bad. I just recently
16 eyes or whatever.
the old ones. I'm not sure.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
Like the old blue
Yeah,
ones
the
that
old.
say
Yeah.
Aviom.
Yes.
But I just recently went through like the new ones, and they're sick.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. It's much clearer.
That's great.
So you're saying the iPhone, iPad stuff is just,
No, some of it's okay.
it's, in theory, it works.
In theory, well, that's the bad part is that it's all theory. It's like, well, you can make it sound how you want. You just got to take the time to do it. What Garrett is saying is true, is we literally don't have the time to do it. You know what I mean? And unless I'm playing at a church every week, I never have an opportunity to come in 30 minutes and go bunk, bunk, bunk on the drums and then turn a knob and go bunk, bunk, bunk on the drums again, turn a knob.
Rotation thing where you're just hiring new musicians all the time.
Yeah.
The rotation, it'd just be better to have something fixed and 16 knobs or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, even those aren't bad. See, like those
The
ones-
P16s.
Yeah, those are fine because everything's really clear. You know, the only thing that's unintuitive on those is the limiter knob.
Yeah, that is. That's a problem.
But besides that, you know, everything else is cool. And you know, there's like treble, bass, you know, whatever. Everything's like volume, solo, mute. All those are really obvious. The worst one is I don't know what the program's called. But we've all actually used this before. It's the iPad program that they use at the main campus.
Like something stage or something.
Yeah, you can pinpoint the most specific frequencies you want
For your inner mix.
for your
Yeah.
for your mix, but it doesn't matter because you're never going to have the time. And also, sometimes you know you're giving people too much power. You know, you got has nothing to do with being a singer, but you've got singers up there just trying to hear themselves when they're accidentally like EQing things, and you know it's like, you know, one they may not understand, but even if they do understand, they're not going to have the time.
Mine is kind of on a different note, but I was going to say when churches are running like a tracks rig that has just way too much stuff going on, for me that can be a big problem on stage because you get to a point where the tracks are filling too much space, there's too many different frequencies, and then you're fighting that as musicians on stage, trying to find something to play that goes along with what's in the pre-recorded track. So I think, you know, some churches you do that whole thing and that's their bag and it works. But I think you have to be aware of like what the musicians who are playing, you know, what they're bringing to the table and how they play in comparison to what kind of track system you're using. Yeah, and how much they can hear it, and how much, you know, how much space it's going to fill. Basically, it's all a fine balance, you know.
Absolutely.
And again, the musicians are coming in, and like they don't know what's on those tracks. Like they don't know if you decided to keep the rhythm track or, you know, some like percussion
exactly.
stuff.
Like how many times have you done something where there's a percussion sound on the track that you were already planning on playing because it's like a signature thing of the song?
Right. So to work with the musicians, is there anything like, should the worship leader do something more like, okay, what are you playing? What are you planning to play? I mean, because
like, yeah, most of the times, like, we don't have a rehearsal, but like a midweek rehearsal. You know, you kind of come in and then it's like, all right, let's put these songs together.
Right.
And when you're running tracks, like, you don't know what they planned on using. So it's like, yeah, it would be good, like, maybe the night before, say, hey, here are the tracks that I'm going to use. Check, like, you know, sift through it and see what's in there. And this is what I want covered, so I have it in here. And if you can cover it, then let me know. I'll take it out.
That's what I'm
so you want that transparency of, here's what I have, but if you're going to play that, I can take it out.
Yeah, I think, you know, I'm glad you said that. I hadn't thought about that, but at one of the churches that we play at, I say all the time, you know, I love key bass sounds and I love like giant bass sounds, but if it's getting in the way with, you know, if I'm trying to do that, I appreciate a staff or like a worship leader that's open to me saying, hey, can we just take that out because I'm doing that? And just the fact that him saying yes, sometimes I choose to leave it in, you know what I mean? Or I say like, yeah, keep it in because it sounds awesome. But I think that even more, you know, just be open to taking something out on the day of.
Okay.
You know what I mean? I think that's, yeah.
What do you guys think, real quick, about, along with loops, about fully automated sets? So what do you, just in general, how do you feel about fully automated? So from the countdown to the end of the sets, fully automated.
I know what you mean. Yeah. I've been in environments where that works because kind of like what I was talking about before, the whole church was geared towards that. You know, that was their plan and they always followed through with it. But at least the kind of musician that I am, and I think these guys are the same way, I think I respond to a church environment where things have more of a flow and more of an organic feel to them, as opposed to every moment is pre-planned out and the whole thing start to finish is just like we're doing it exactly in this amount of time and everything. I feel like I respond to that more as a musician when it has, that more kind of organic quality. People maybe call things on the fly, decide to change things. I roll with that stuff a lot better than when I'm basically just like an actor on stage, you know, like doing, just doing something that's already decided. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. I
Yeah.
really do. Yeah, thank you. That was good. So how do you guys feel most appreciated? I mean, I know pretty much all of you are paid, but even as volunteers, when you volunteer your time at churches, how do you feel most appreciated? Like what can a worship leader or church staff do that you're like, wow, they really do value my time? I threw you a curveball.
Not have to rehearse the same thing just to rehearse the same thing. Yeah. That's a big deal. It's like whenever, like I've played at churches that will do like a production run where we'll rehearse all the songs, you know, just to like learn them, and then we'll do the whole service front to back, and then test the videos to make sure that they work. But like we'll waste like 30 seconds for like each video or each transition when we can just learn the songs and then talk about the planning center flow afterwards. You know, because we'll like test a video, which is important to do, but like test it and then like watch like maybe a minute or 30 seconds of it. It's like, why are we watching this? This is not, we'll see it in the service. Or you can just tell us, hey, we're going to play this video right here. And we're like, cool, I'll expect a video after this song. I don't know. I think that's a big waste of time.
So running videos, even just, a minute of it, you feel like that's like, okay, well, let's just act like we did kind of thing?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Or at least like you could just like start it and like hear like 3 seconds and be like, cool, video works, done. That's what it's going to look like, so be ready for the video.
Yeah.
That's totally cool. But like rehearsing the songs and then playing through them again, you know? And then even getting all the way through the production run and then like going back to do transitions, that drives me crazy. But
I think time, respecting time is the biggest thing for me, and I think that's what Garrett was saying too. You know, because we play music all the time, we've had like all of the, man, you're so killer, you know, you sound awesome, that lick you did. So I don't think we necessarily like need that, you know, just because, you know what I'm saying, you know what I mean? But yeah, I totally agree. Like, if most of the time, if you were to hear me in a rehearsal, I'll like try stuff, and then if it sucks, or if it's, I'll like try stuff, and then if it's bad, I'm not gonna do it the next time. You know what I mean? Like, and so I think
you don't need to be told. You don't need to go through it and play exactly what you're gonna play.
Exactly.
To know.
Exactly. And you know, that's, as professionals, it's different for volunteers. It's different.
Totally different
But
For young musicians, I feel like I need you to try to play it.
right,
How you're
repetition
gonna play.
is
Right.
important. Yeah.
Because I know they're not practicing at home. So, but yeah, professionals, you would rather leave the door open to say, yeah, try.
Yeah. Well, and then after that, if something doesn't like land, you know, if there's not like the moment,
Yeah.
you know, in the rehearsals that I run, where it's all professionals, if we get through a song and it is not very good, I'll just look at everybody and say, oh, we all know what's going on now, and everybody will be like, yep, and then I never go back to it because I'm positive that they're gonna mentally prep themselves for what needs to happen next time.
A lot of times, what I've seen as well, and I've been a church musician plenty of times, and what I see is the worship leader almost thinks, well, I just don't want them to do it that way. But a lot of times when we know we've messed up, that's enough.
It's fixed. Yeah.
That's enough. And it's like, we know what we did,
Right.
done. Because they're already beating themselves up for making those mistakes
Oh,
anyway.
absolutely.
Or just mentally correcting. And it's like, well, that should be enough. And I know as worship leaders, we think, okay, well, I want to hear it right at least once.
Yeah.
And we can get in this habit of, all right, well, let's just redo it.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Well, and if you think about it, if you've got 4 songs, if you run through the first song, and if you run through the first song, and then you run through it again, then you run through the second song, and then you run through it again, you get to the third song. The third song is the one that actually needs the work, but you wasted time on the first 2 songs running those twice. You know what I mean? You wasted, like 3.5 minutes here, 4 minutes here. That's 7.5 minutes you could be devoting to the song that you actually need to work on. You know what I mean? So, that's all it really is. I think I feel the most respected when my time is respected. When there's trust in my time. That's all.
So let me run this by you. I've seen this at several churches, and actually this is the way we do our production or our rehearsal now. I used to do it a lot of different ways. We would run through everything kind of like that, where we're just like hitting every part, and I would even pull up the song that I thought needed the most work first, and this and that. Now I just say we're going to run the entire set twice, start to finish. Rehearsal is rehearsal, no practice. And we run everything from video. We literally run the entire video. I know it's like what you said. It's a lot of time, but from start to finish, as soon as the countdown ends, all the way till the pastor will walk on stage. We do that twice, and that's it. And that's all we do now. And I am taking the video thing in consideration because I'm like, okay, well, if it is a 5-minute video, that's 5 minutes. That's from a 4 to a 5 or a 7 to an 8 on a clock, and that's a lot of time. You know what I mean? So now I'm like, okay, well, maybe that makes sense. Now, we don't run countdowns 5 minutes. We'll just do like 30 seconds on those. But so what do you think about something like that? What kind of rehearsals? I mean, we've kind of talked about this a little bit at length, but what is your favorite kind of rehearsal? Do you like a run, or do you like to practice together with stops and restarts and things like that? Because I know people have preference, and I just want to just talk about it for a second.
Yeah, this may be aimed more towards professional musicians because most of the time we don't really need a morale booster. We don't need to start off with a song we're good at. You know what I mean? We know we can play the song. So what I usually have to do is just start with the hardest song. Let's get the one that we're going to spend the most time on. If there's a bunch of hits.
So if we're not doing a full run through, just start with the hardest song.
Yeah, let's just start with the hardest song and make sure we get that down, and then just go from difficulty on down. And then if the last one is just 6 chords and we're just playing, 4 chords and we're just playing that as a loop the whole time, that's cool. You know what I mean? It makes it way simpler. And it's like momentum for this. Because you've been in rehearsals where it'll like, it's like an uphill battle, and then you're looking at the last song and you're like, man, this is, I know the guitar player didn't practice this, so we're going to be here even longer. And if we just get that one out of the way and then just keep going, that's going to make
I value the words, I'll get it this weekend now more so than I ever used to, because before I was kind of like, but will you? Yeah. And then I have pretty much everybody that will tell me that will come up on Sunday. We'll do a full run through. We just do one run through on Sunday. And they have it. I'm like, okay.
And sometimes when I'm in leadership positions, if they tell me I'm going to have it this weekend, I look at them and I'm like, are you going to have it this weekend? And they're like, yes. So that makes them really accountable for it.
And then you instill the trust. You're like, okay, I trust you. And then it's like, now I actually have to have it. I can't just say it. So, what were you going to say?
Yeah, I was going to say, I actually really like what you talked about, just running straight through like twice. Because for me, the only reason you should like stop and start a song like in rehearsal is if it like catastrophically falls apart. Because like what these guys were talking about of everyone knows, you know, if you have any sense of self-awareness as a musician, you know what you've done wrong in a rehearsal. And I think for me, the best rehearsals are the ones where you just play through the songs once or twice. And, you know, if you need to focus more time on something, you can do that on your own time, or even right before a service starts or something like that, you know. Because the more you rehearse a song to get things perfect or whatever, the less and less energy you end up having when you play it. And I think having the right energy, you know, in a worship context is significantly more important than playing things perfectly or to a T, you know, like playing the right part or something like that. Yeah, right, yeah. The more you have energy and the more you can tap into what's going on in the room at the time, you know, that's more important than the specific things or parts.
Yes.
And then I think there's a tendency to think that, well, I have younger musicians in this band that need a little bit more work. When I was a younger musician and I was playing with professionals, if I knew that the train was going to keep moving, whether I'm on it or not, it just was more incentive to get on the train, you know.
I think you're also, the way I explained this rehearsal style to our group when we changed over was that it's going to expose you a little bit more. And 4 guys are going to be completely ready, and then they're going to be able to see the person that is not ready. Right. And it just kind of exposes, and you're like, oh, okay.
I think creating accountability for your team is always a good thing. You know, babying them the whole time, having, you know, and I've been in churches, and I've played on like tours, especially where they'll have tracks that have the part that I'm literally playing. And it's like somebody trying to put a pacifier in my mouth, and I'm like, please stop. I don't do that anymore. I'm 20-something now, you know. Oh, yeah, absolutely, yeah. Always, I think one problem that church music in particular has is looking at 2 people. You know, one person did an A+ work, and one person did a C-, and going like, great job, guys. Yeah. I think that's
just
bad.
be honest and open.
And people appreciate that.
That's one reason I really like having just a run through like the morning of. Because it's more incentive to have your parts down and get ready to play. And I think that's, you know, a lot of people think, oh, just professionals can kind of do that. We need to rehearse the younger ones. But no, like they need to be held to a standard if they're going to be on stage with professionals. Or even if it's all volunteers, you know, everybody needs to be held accountable for that.
Absolutely. I like that a lot. I like that. And I mean, how do you feel about, okay, say if Jordan, I'm using my people's names.
Don't bleep it out either.
Say if Jordan just wasn't, maybe one guy was here, and so maybe one guy was here and one guy was here. Now, do we go to Jordan after the fact, or do we say, I want everybody to be basically at the same level? Jordan, I'm hearing a little bit of issue.
Call him out right in front of everybody. I mean, that's been some of like my biggest learning moments. is when like it happens. It needs to happen. It needs to happen right now, or you're fired, or like you're gonna be embarrassed, or you can't play on in this band anymore.
I think
You know?
I think you do have to be careful though in a volunteer
Well,
context.
sure, yeah.
For sure.
Don't,
Because everybody has a different way that they respond to that.
right.
You know?
Yeah, I'm not saying like
I
be
think when
mean
we
or
have a
something,
good
but-
relationship with the
Yeah.
people, we can say, I'm just not feeling it, or I'm just not.
Case by case thing.
Right.
Right.
It can be case by. So I would say, as a worship leader, just make sure you know your person and their personality before you call
Right.
them out in front of everybody.
Yeah.
But also, like, yeah, I guess if they're paid musicians, it's a little
Yeah.
bit different.
Sure.
Because the incentive is the money.
Right.
It's like, but volunteers, they can be a little, well, I can just walk out.
Right.
But I don't want to get into that. What I want to get into is, what is the best way to communicate before and during the service? Like, when you, maybe you guys use Planning Center, when you, like, what do you like to see when you are asked to play for a Sunday? What kind of, like, as far as charts, all that kind of stuff that can be attached to Planning Center, those kinds of, what do you like to see the most? What is unnecessary, or what is, like, super important when getting that email or that text from
Okay.
Planning Center?
Okay. What is unimportant is when I look at a planning center and I see 40 different versions of the same chart. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Also, charts that have every single part written out. To me, I'm never going to
So
use
lead
that.
sheets are just,
Well, by lead sheets, do you mean like measures? Is that what you mean? Or do you
Yeah.
mean lead sheets with like words and chords?
oh, no, I'm talking about, yeah, I'm talking about lead sheets as in, like your notes. Is that what you're
Right.
talking about? Like,
Yeah.
actually
In my
notated?
and this is for I think professionals more than volunteers. I am always going to do the work leading up to the service. I'm always going to try and memorize it. So I never need something to explicitly tell me. What I need is to be able to glance down. You know, I'll pull it up on my iPhone and just like set it on my amp or something. What I need is to be able to glance down at something and know where I'm at. And if charts are like 6 pages long, I can never do that. And then
So chord charts are probably the best way to go.
in my opinion, the simplest version of the information is what I need. And so, and also, when you get to this, a professional level, changing keys is not a problem. So I don't need to hear like a slowed down version of a song just to hear it in the key of A. Do you know what I mean? Like sometimes, like they'll like pitch like a whole song down like a minor third.
Well,
Yeah, I don't really need that.
I don't actually do that. I just say,
Well, God bless you.
here's the arrangement we're going to base ours off of on Spotify
Yep.
or YouTube, but we're doing it in like G and it's in C
Right.
sharp.
Exactly. That's where I'm at. I don't need to hear how great is our God just because they really want their musicians to practice in a certain key. So that's for me. The long and short of it is I want the least amount of information I can to jog my memory. I don't need like a whole score.
Everybody leaned up. What else?
Oh yeah.
say something really quick.
Yeah, throw it all in.
I think a lot of times worship leaders might not know that, and this might be a good or a bad thing, but this is the truth. We don't know the words to the songs.
Yeah.
So
No, I know. I'm a worship leader.
we don't know. So
I don't know all the words.
the thing that I might use the most is just where are we in this song?
Yes.
Right there, like God something something. Oh, okay, got it. And then I'm like, I know where I'm at now. That's all I wanted to say.
I mean, I don't know if this is a good or bad thing. When I'm saying if we need to start back at a certain point during like a rehearsal setting, honestly, I just go by the form because I can barely think of the words myself, especially when somebody else is leading. Actually, I'm better at the words when somebody else is leading. That's weird, but I just say let's go before the second chorus. Give me a measure before the second chorus, that kind of thing. But and that's maybe start doing instead of let's go right before how great, I don't know, just whatever the words are, like that's
Yeah.
Musicians always ask you, what is that? Where is that?
yeah, where's that at? I don't even know the words.
Yeah, for me, I was just going to say, I think all of this kind of ties back to there is a such thing as like over-resourcing your people. Giving your people on your team too many resources, too many versions of the same thing. Yeah, too many knobs to change on stuff. You can overload people with a planning center thing or whatever else. And then it really, at the end of the day, you just want everybody to know the form and the vibe of the song, you know? I don't need 15 tracks in the thing so I can hear like every little guitar part or every little, you know, I know the form of the songs and I know the chords, and I'm going to do the work to make sure I fill out that space. And I think, you know, every musician on worship teams should be thinking with that same approach, you know.
Drop the mic.
I'm so sorry. Only I would do that.
Same approach. I don't even know what I was going to say.
Let me say something. I'm talking a lot. I think overall your program is going to be better if you set a standard. If you set a standard like, this is what we expect.
Drop it, dude.
Just drop the mic. I use the kind of desired track, or the maybe there's just a song on YouTube as the standard. Me and Josh talked about this a little bit ago. I just use that as the standard. I say, I want this at the very least. Yeah, okay, maybe there's like a little bass, you know, line that you may not be able to hit right now, just because of skill level, that kind of thing. That's fine, whatever. But at the very least, I want it this good, and then we can just go up from there. I mean, those are fantastic, professional musicians on the tracks, and I get that. And I get that it's a lot of studio stuff as well sometimes, other than live recordings. But I think that kind of makes us better as live church musicians if that's just our standard. And if it's below the standard overall, I'm like, okay, that's okay. It's just sometimes not that. But there are worship leaders that are just so, the standard is so low, and that's why their stuff's not growing. That's why their team's not growing. And so that's why I use that. It's sometimes for some people it's a very high standard. Some people it's like, well, what if I come in with this part? I want you to come in with a different part, maybe. Unless that guitar hook is just perfect for that song, and I need that. I mean, think of Reckless Love without. I mean, but still, it's just the standard. Be adaptable, right? And as a worship leader, be adaptable to something better.
Right. And make sure you as a worship leader,
if you as a worship leader have all volunteers and you're worried about people not being able to nail, that stuff without having all those resources, without having a tutorial video on how to play this part or whatever, you have to help them grow. You have to show them ways that they can get outside, or, like improve their level overall, as opposed to just saying copy and paste this thing that like YouTube says to do or the internet says to do in this part. You know what I mean? Like you have to help your musicians learn how to be adaptable to what's going on a Sunday,
right,
or Saturday or whatever. Yeah.
I learned a lot when I did copy that part, especially when I played for the Black Gospel Choir, because those parts are so difficult sometimes. I learned a lot, but I did still adapt myself to those parts. Some things I did have to make a little bit easier for a while until I was ready. And then other things I just did something different. And I like when I'm under a worship leader that allows that. That's cool with that. But that still holds me to a certain standard at the same time.
And I was bad for a long time, and my church still let me play. I was working hard and I was practicing, but sometimes, like you said, if there's a certain standard and you want your people to get there, it's like give them a chance to not do well. But this is not for people that are like professionals. This is not for, this is not for every case. But if I see a kid's like really working at it and I'm helping him and he's getting better, one day he might be a professional musician.
He's going to be very appreciative of that.
Exactly, like I am for my.
But also, set him up, for a chance to possibly fail. But also, don't be the worship leader that they will never remember. Be the worship leader that they're like, they were kind of tough on me, but I'm so grateful for that. Is there anything else along the same kind of lines that you see in the communication process that is just has to be there, or completely unnecessary?
I think this kind of goes back to like the rehearsal thing. Like as a worship leader, I think like you should understand what needs to be worked on, and that everybody doesn't have to be on the stage when that's worked on. Like if it's a vocal issue, like that is like the biggest like bummer, you know, whenever musicians have to sit through or play through like this section so many times to figure out what harmony part they're gonna sing, when it's like, okay, you probably should have discussed what that was gonna be, or even just looping it and playing it so they can like sing in tune. Yeah, that's even worse to me, you know. So just like let the band go, and then maybe play it, like maybe the keyboard player stays, or if you can play keys, then as a worship leader, then play keys or guitar or like whatever. Just have something.
Yeah, that's good.
You know.
That's really good.
In the best circumstances I've been in, where it's like the vocalists definitely needed to work on this before they go with the band, just like 20 minutes before, like a part of the rehearsal, just be like, all right, band, you work on your stuff for 20 minutes. I'm going to get these vocalists on track, and then we'll put it together. Yeah. That's way better use of time.
Yeah, that's really a good thing. I mean, when I play at Saddleback, that's what they do really well, like the band does a rehearsal by itself, and then the vocals do their rehearsal. And it's all very loose. You know, there's times in rehearsals where I'll ask the MD, hey, do you want it big here? Do you want, like, what do you want the intro? Because we'll do like a song with a pretty like layered intro. But it's the first song, so it's like, well, let's just start big, you know, just to get the, you know, people on their feet. But there'll be times when I'll ask the MD, I was like, what do you want here? And he's like, you know, I don't know. We'll have to wait for the vocalist to come in. But just getting like a rough form or like an idea of the song, you know, and not, you know, like I was saying, having, you know, the band leave for vocals to work on something. It's the same thing. If the band has a problem, let the vocals go. You know, you don't want to like work on band stuff while the vocals are sitting there when they could be doing something else.
Just time, just value in time.
Yeah, totally.
Absolutely.
And that's for volunteer or paid musicians.
Yeah. Is there anything else you guys see that?
I'm going to say one thing.
Yeah.
One thing that I try to do frequently, and I got to start doing this more, is like every so often I'll just go to the worship leader and be like, hey, man, is there anything that I'm giving you that you don't want, or is there anything that I'm not giving you that you want more of? I'm just keeping that open relationship, because sometimes they feel like they can't talk to me, or they feel like
you might not have the words to
express. So like keeping that open relationship, I want the worship leader to do that to me sometimes. Like, hey, what's going on? Is everything good? Like, is everything that I'm giving you work? Same questions. Just keeping that open trend. If I can be honest.
Were you going to say something else?
Just transparency, just open communication.
Yeah. And I was just going to add to that, even if it's like you don't have the words to express to the musician what you want, if you want something, say it. Like if you want something to be more purple, tell us that, and we'll do our best to like make that sound more purple, you know, whatever that means to you. Like, just say it. And as a musician, be open to that stuff. Don't be so closed off. Like, if it's not translated to you in the way that it's supposed to be translated, then it's wrong. You know, because people experience music differently. And because all it is, you know, no, I was going to get too heavy.
Yeah, I was just going to say, like, feedback and review of what's going on in the band is huge. Like, if there's been one thing that I think has helped me grow more than anything, you know, playing as a church musician, has been literally just talking with like the drummer and the bass player after every service and being like, what was successful here and what didn't go as well as we had hoped it did, you know? Because the link between the musicians, it's bigger than just getting in the same room and playing all the right parts to make a song. There's, you know, an infinite number of things that happen during a service that you could pinpoint and talk about, and like, why did this work or why didn't this work? So I think just, keeping that open line of communication in any situation with your other musicians on stage is a thing that will help you grow more than anything else.
Wow. I'm going to have to stop us right there. But all this information is so good. I mean, just being able to hear what the band actually is thinking. And I really appreciate you guys being open to that. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you have any questions for these guys, I'm just going to ask them to just occasionally float back in the comments for at least a month or so, and just answer any questions you may have for them. They are professional musicians and professional church musicians, so if you're a worship leader and you have any questions, throw it in the comments, and I'll do my best either to maybe to remind you guys to just hit that, or do what I can to get those questions answered. I know it's sometimes tough. I don't know the answers to all the questions. So, but thank you so much for watching this video. We got a lot of new content about to come out involving these guys and just their infinite amount of information that they're about to bring. Remember to subscribe if you haven't already to stay up to date with what's happening here at Worship Leader Hangout and to watch all these videos. And remember, great worship leaders are always learning. Have a great day.
Word. You should drop the mic now, dude.